we're in this an economic slump, almost 50% of the consumers look to switch to a brand which gives them more value, a greater value for money. How do you think airlines can leverage on the online medium to reduce churn?
Yeah. Again, I think that it's a hell of a lot less expensive to use digital to make connections than it is to, retool your business class seating,
Right.
Or to make a new
A new route or something.
lounge,
Right,
or
right.
whatever, right? I mean, digital is actually a medium that's incredibly efficient. So using digital to sort of rethink that, the beginning of a brand experience and to manage those handoffs, I think is a way to kind of earn an unfair share of attention,
Right.
during a downtime. And I think that, the worst thing that could happen would be if all brands construed this period that we're in right now as an opportunity to retrench, right? I think, that this is a time, in fact, when brands can be smart about innovation and actually to, some of the things, when I was in school, one of the assignments from my professor was actually to design a postage stamp. And his thinking was that incredibly narrow constraints actually usually present the biggest opportunity for innovation.
Right.
And so I think a constrained economy just requires that people really think about the problem in a different way. Right. And innovation usually hides in plain sight. And I think that it would be interesting and I think valuable for the airlines to think, what can we do? So we've got a big old basket of lemons. How do we make lemonade?
Right.
Because the normal tricks are, I think, not going to be opportunities for them.
Right.
Let's redesign the planes. Let's do this. Let's do that. Not an option. But could they use digital to drive loyalty?
Right.
Could they use digital to be a better voice for the brand? That's possible.
Right, and much cheaper and much more efficiently, I guess.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, another side effect of this economic slump is that lots of airlines are getting into mergers and tie-ups with different airlines to reduce costs. How do you think this affects the brand, and how do you think an airline can leverage a merger to enhance its brand value?
I think it's hard, because again, having been the victim of a lot of those kinds of airline experiences, the big risk is that you hit a kind of a not my job. Oh, that's a different code. Oh, that it's from a consumer's perspective.
Right.
It represents almost no value whatsoever, except it could be an extended route or broadened kind of footprint. But I'm not sure it's a brand. I'm not sure it's a branding opportunity.
Right, because it's kind of lowest on the priority when two airlines are merging. They have unions on the board, they have fuel prices, they have operational efficiency, not so much the brand.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, Razorfish has worked with a lot of US airlines as well as international airlines. And US airlines seem to be falling behind in terms of just the brand image and the brand names when compared to global international big airline brands. How do you think they can play catch up? Is it through technology or through something else?
Yeah, honestly, it's a hard question. I don't, because I think, when you fly on Virgin Atlantic or you fly on Singapore, or Cathay, that's a pretty good experience.
It's quite good.
And so the fundamental issue, is a disparity between the experiences. The kind of flight experience. So that's a challenge. So having said that, Look at what JetBlue has done,
Yep.
right? So, and done at a value price.
Right.
So they managed to create a brand that was based on a culture, and I think that is a powerful idea.
Right.
And that's a function of sort of finding a niche and an unmet need,
Right.
and then having leadership that insists that every action is part of the brand.
Right.
And I think that that's something that's harder to do when you have a big union-driven entity.
Right. Right.
But I don't think that means that they get to be let off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it harder.
Right. Right. Now, let me move on again back to benchmarking. That's something that you mentioned earlier. Now, Interbrand's top 100 brands had no airlines in it. Your digital top brands have no airlines in it. Is there a benchmark that's actually needed for airlines, or is there something separate that's got to come up? Why are there no airlines coming here?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that, again, the reason why they didn't come up in the digital brand scorecard was because, as I'd mentioned before, I think the digital experience of most airlines is actually pretty shitty. Put a fine point on it. So no airline has really leveraged the medium, I think, very well.
Right.
And so I would not necessarily be an advocate for having a different scorecard for airlines. Airlines should be subject to the same scorecards that other brands are subject to. Like they shouldn't. I don't think they should naturally sort of be relegated. Oh, it's an airline, so we judge them differently.
Right. But then
why are they different from a car company or
Right, but I feel it's comparing a Coke can to a Boeing 747 is very different, because you are in the plane for 6 hours, you're interacting with the Coke can for 2 minutes, and you're comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah. So, but yes, I mean, I think a low involvement product, like a CPG product,
Right.
is a different animal than an airline or a car, for example. But at the same time, I would suggest that what's at the heart of the experience is actually fairly similar, and that the things that from a brand or a company perspective,
Right.
the things that I would do if I were trying to fix American Airlines might in fact be more similar than to the things I was going to do if I were going to fix McDonald's. I think that there are some fundamental principles that are really derived from human beings and human behavior,
Right.
and our expectations as we move through the world as humans, and that those are the same. And so, if you navigate from that, if you navigate from a belief that the way a brand succeeds is by finding an unmet need,
Right.
and then meeting it in a compelling way, then it's not so different if you're Coke if you're JetBlue.
Right. Right. Interesting. Now, some trend questions. Digital branding in 2009. What do you think? Where do you think it's headed?
I think that there's going to be more of a multi-screen kind of approach, like digital. Television is going digital in 2009. The advent of the Android and the continued success of the iPhone,
Right.
Are really bringing the web to people's pockets in a truly compelling way.
Right.
I think we're going to see more prevalence of large-scale displays, like the Surface displays, and kind of more interactive outdoor experiences.
Yep.
And I think all of that is going to increase both the complexity and also the opportunity for brands to create experiences that actually are more nimble and more ubiquitous.
Right.
So, I think that brands have typically thought about, okay, so what I do on television, is really different from what I do online, and I think that those lines they have been blurry for a while, and I think in 2009 those lines are going to go away.
Nice.
So I think there's not going to be kind of, this is how we advertise, and this is how we transact. I think those things are going to come together.
Right.
In a way that's going to need, it's going to require brand marketers to become more like product developers than messengers.
Very interesting. Airlines in 2009. What do you think? Just off the top of your head.
I haven't seen, I think mobility, I've heard a lot of noise about mobility, and more airlines, providing in-flight Wi-Fi and things like that. I think that opens an interesting, it's an interesting door, and I'll be curious to see what airlines really go through and kind of walk through the door and begin to provide branded services in a flight, via digital. I think that's a powerful opportunity. Again, I think, the current financial situation is, providing very, very real constraints.
Yep.
So, gas prices, who knows what's going to happen there. That impacts airlines more quickly than most.
Interesting. Joe Crump in 2009.
I'm super curious about digital television, actually. That's a personal passion of mine. So, an agency like Razorfish is right at the red hot center of, the collapsing of the walls between advertising and online experiences. So I think that we're thinking a lot about that, and it's a big focus of mine.
Great. Thank you very much for your time, Joe. It's been a pleasure interviewing you and learning from you. And thanks a lot for joining us at simpliflying.com.
Great. It's been great. Thank you.